Introduction. Language is one of the important tools and communication methods that human beings deserve to embrace over the past decade and still do. In the modern society, different strategies to promote the language creativity in active interactions have been a success. As much as people tend to cope with different values and cultural practices in the background of the language, it is difficult to understand how the evaluation of the characteristics can be fed without any trigger. This study will focus on the causes of death of a language, where the process begins, how it is carried out, backing up the proof using the book that has an illustration of how individual language speakers are coerced into giving up their language. The study will also discuss on the factor that is lost when a language dies, describing the answer using a book, and finally choose the two illustrations when discussing the examples given by Harrison, on how each language has its own window on the world. Causes of death of a language. Miscommunication and lack of mutual understanding may lead to the death of a language, as there are no channels to convey a message from a certain source. Provision of the various equipment meant to express a certain language have been an effective way to trigger its rise, though this has been in vain, since as long as the communication links are cut, the language naturally dies. The cultural values of people in a certain community would depend on the beliefs based on the language and total tolerance for these factors. These values may interfere with the communication channel through the illustrations given using direction. Language is a critic that seeks to identify differentiation and provide factors that will promote its existence. If some environmental elements are a hindrance within this context, the aim is dead, and the outcome is a negative communication causing language barrier. The death of language consists of the individual's perceptions towards the same approach. The beginning of the process of death of a language. Individuals with the abilities to illustrate proper grounds that will ascertain the channel of information and communication embrace the actions based on the causes of death of a language, and the effects of the transformation efforts. Every process in the context of literature has a beginning that catalyzes the rest of the program. In the death of a language, the focus is based on the mutual understanding and communication skills issued through a certain ground, using a particular audience who need to address the issues. The process is manipulated by anxiety and the feelings of disclosure and pessimism that promote criticism based on the manner it is evaluated, and the ways through which the structures have an impact on the rest of the process. Identifying the resources from the language content might affect the fading of the factor due to the quality of information used, for a wrong audience in a wrong format and period. The individual language speakers are triggered by the commonalities within a setup to express their language facts using the opportunities surrounding the platform. Manipulating some status or circumstances such as misinterpretations of words or sentences, may provide an opportunity for the speakers to give up on their language. Proper decision-making that might be an issue in the event of promoting growth and development of a language may influence the actual reality for the same input. Lost factors when a language dies. The main point from the language connections and the proper evaluation of the resources are the content of the information. When this factor dies, the language used is as good as dead. The communication background and the outcome may affect the audience, and the individuals would feel manipulated, leading to the denial and declarations to suing the language that a community seemed comfortable in. Accurate and critical thinking through the approach on awareness and feedback may affect the progression of a language. The effects of proper decisions made are drawn from the polite feedback giving, and it is upon individuals to provide outstanding ground based on the same platform. Another element that is lost during the process is trust and confidence from individuals who opted for a particular language that never worked. Depending on the reliability of issues that affect the language of a certain group, having an important factor channeled at producing the same decision will depend on how the information issued is convincing, and the strategies used for the outcome of the same content, as considered and emulated by the abundance. Confidence in a language will be possible through the right quality of information from the same language, promoting an outcome that will eliminate negative thinking through a firm's decision-making process. Constant communication and information development within a certain language depends on the frequent efforts to channel the same communication. Focusing on the accurate choice of words and ensuring that their arrangements are formal and attract the attention of the users, will depend on the feedback from the same individuals. 2 illustrations by Harrison. Harrison believed in the language introduction, productivity, creativity, and the factors that may lead to its absence. One illustration that Harrison puts forth is the Karaim language that is spoken in Lithuania. This language, as illustrated by Harrison, it became obsolete with time, losing its status as the common language spoken in this part of the world. As such, for with it vanished an accretion of many centuries of human thinking about time, seasons, sea creatures, reindeer, flowers, mathematics, landscapes, myths, music, infinity, and the everyday. The death of a language, as depicted by Harrison, covers on an emphasized quote on how each language has its own window on the world. This means that the content of a particular language is deterministic of its futuristic characteristics, which speculate the period the language might survive as it is on its own, and the other factors will depend on the response from the users. Another illustration depicted by Harrison is the Munda people, otherwise the Leaf Cup people, from India. To this end, Harrison states that the loss of a language is like dropping a bomb on a museum. Nevertheless, accurate decision-making may trigger the growth as well, depending on the region the language is used, and some forms of emulation from the background to the conclusion of the history. Constant from the language will determine the other department of a language and its exploration within the societal setup. Conclusion. Having a common understanding based on the factors of growth, development, content and social skills within a communication channel will ascertain the ways in which a language is known. The death of a language depends on the users and their environment. Philosophical approach towards discussion of emotions and events that are expressed from a certain angle of the language efforts will protect the reputation of a language, depending on the ways the users redefine and identify it. Self-motivation and critical thinking are some factors to be determined when discussing on the benefits of proper communication, as well as self-image and body language as the user settles at the language. StudyCorgi.com has everything you need for successful studies. Writing tools, informative articles, and essay samples. Come check it out.